What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Chat Room, a podcast dedicated with having interviews with upcoming stars and influencers of our generation. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram at thechatroom.tcr and on Twitter at thechatroom_TCR. Also, don't forget to become one of our valued Patreon members, which allows you to unlock exclusive content while also supporting this podcast. Enjoy the episode.
Good afternoon, good evening, good night, not sure where you're from. I'm your host, Tef, and this is The Streets Part 2. And like we did in the first one, if you're here, we have a co-host today, Cindy Vito. She is back. Go introduce yourself, Cindy. Say hi to the people.
Hi, everyone. We're back by popular demand, actually. So, thank you for requesting Part 2 of The Streets. I hope you guys like it.
That is entirely true. Cindy was huge in the comments over the weekend with the last episode, and they strongly suggested that we have her back. So today we have three special guests. We have YouTubers. Kano and Anesu from Hungary. They are medicine students. And I just want, not only is that impressive, the fact that they're able to balance the medical side of school, the YouTube side of things, social, and still thrive in all aspects. You want to tell the people how you do that and also say what's up?
Hey guys, I'm Anesu.
Hey, I'm Kano.
Honestly, it's really hard. I don't know how we do it, but at the end of the day, it comes out. It works out.
I think the pandemic was a blessing in disguise because now it's a little bit easier to balance both of them. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Seeing the bright side of the coronavirus. And then we've got Dylan. Dylan is about to start his LLB in the UK and also graduated from it is Rhodes University in Grahamstown. Yeah. You want to say hi to the people, Graham?
What's up, everyone? It's your favorite bomb boy from the Plus 263. It's your boy Dylan. Hope you're all well.
All right. Now that everyone is acquainted, let's get right into it. The streets. So obviously we've got Kano. You're from South Africa, Port Elizabeth to be exact, and you're currently based in Hungary. Cindy, you're based in Poland. Dylan, you're based in South Africa. So we all have experience from the streets of Europe, South Africa, and Zim. So I'm going to start with Kano.
Oh, gosh.
What do you say is the difference between the streets of Europe, the streets of Zimbabwe, and the streets of South Africa? But the first question, before you actually tell us the difference, which one is the safest?
Definitely not Zim.
The safest, I guess, would have to be Europe. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, I've never dated a guy from SA, so I don't think I'd be able to I've only dated Zim guys in terms of African, I've only been with Zim guys. So yeah.
Sadly.
Okay. Anesu, you clearly have something you want to share.
Wait, listen, it's not my story to tell. It's not my story to tell, it's hers, but you know what, let's just leave it at sad.
You just leave it at sadly. All right, Dylan's shaking his head. Just like, come on now. Dylan, what's the difference? What do you want? Do you have anything to defend the Zim men? And you want to compare the South African streets and the Zim streets?
I mean, I don't know where we got this whole narrative from, but someone tweeted it the other day. They're apparently Zim men are the Jamaicans of Africa. And I don't know how to feel about it.
What does that mean?
Honestly.
Yeah, do explain. What does that mean?
What does that mean? Yeah.
So the stereotype apparently is that Jamaicans, they move mad. So Zimons being the African equivalent would mean that we do the most. But, we're quite lover boy orientated boys. And we don't do the most from my perspective.
Cindy, making a face. All right, Cindy, you want to jump in there? What do you think?
I mean, I've also only dated Zim men. So I think I can say that now, guys. Zim men, look, I love my Zim Kings. I'm a Zimbabwean myself. I ride for my Zim Kings, but you need to step up the game, guys. Zim men need to do a lot better than they're doing right now. That's it.
Oh, totally. I've heard stories. And I can say some of my Zimbabwean brothers are slack. However, are we forgetting? Can we discuss the West African brothers?
Cindy,
I'm pretty sure
the Nigerians.
The Nigerians. You seem to have a lot to say. And Nesu's face lit up when I said Nigerians.
Oh my God, no.
Oh, I was mistaken? Was that a lie?
I was actually confused because I don't know where this came from. Like, how are Nigerians the best? Because I haven't had good experiences with Nigerians before. So
I think Nigerians are 100% better than them men. I don't know.
But
I'm not saying they're the best.
Okay.
There's still more.
Not saying they're the best, but I do think in terms of like romancing their hands, Nigerian men romance their hands, guys.
Exactly.
That's like no questions asked. Dates, all of that.
I think if I'm gonna be finessed, at least let me be finessed properly. You know, Zim guys will drag you the mud and it'll end. At least in Nigerian guys will treat you right before he like ruins you. I think
Let's shift the focus.
But guys,
away from
some
women.
bone notes. Okay, that's
the excuse that you can use if we are in Zim right now.
Tagaro anema
Outside.
economic sanctions. Tinema sanctions, sha.
All right, so just to shift the focus away from the Zim men a little bit. Dylan, you want to tell us the difference between the South African streets and the Zim streets?
SA is a fast game. But the thing I love about SA is people are open and people communicate what they want. Unlike in Zim, where people try to like beat around the bush, everyone in SA is just open about what they want. So if you end up getting finessed, you've basically finessed yourself because people are really open and like a girl will tell you live Jack, like, okay, I'm feeling you, but I don't want to be in a relationship with you. As opposed to in Zim, where everyone's trying to get the same thing, but no one wants to say it. So people hide behind, oh yeah, no, I really like you, or I'm trying to get to know you, and then, you know, the whole confusion. So I think South Africans are quite open and I respect them for that. But they will break you.
They will break
you. They'll break you.
Okay, I was waiting for it because
They'll dribble you.
I have some experience in South Africa. The South Africans.
But I heard that.
All right. So in the last episode, if you guys were paying attention, we mainly focused more on the dating and relationship side. But for this one, we actually want to talk about the actual streets. Strictly
no
streets.
commitment, no exclusivity, just the streets, raw, all of that. Let's talk about it.
Like what Cindy said, the first... very safe. It's actually going to be very interesting. Then we're going to jump right into it. The rules of the streets. Let's start actually with the rules of the streets, because there's a lot of discrepancies in a lot about what happens in the streets, like do's and don'ts. I'll start with Dylan. What do you think are the do's and don'ts of the streets?
First one, leave your heart at home. We don't need it here. What are you doing? Leave your heart at home.
Don't bring your heart to the club.
What are you? No, genuinely, what are you doing? Why are you looking for love in the streets? What are you doing? Who are you? I think that's the only rule I have. Don't bring your heart to the club. Leave it at home where it belongs.
I know you look a little bit on the other side of the fence. You wanna jump in on this one?
Me?
Yeah, do's and don'ts of the streets.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not one of those people that are made for the streets. I like the way Dylan was saying, like, don't bring your heart out. I will bring the heart out. I know I shouldn't. Mm-hmm. But I guess if I had to just think of it, it's just like when you're on the street, just do it and just don't think about the consequences. Like, don't worry about that stuff. Just be your best, your whole self. If I were to ever be on the streets like that, I guess that's what I do.
Well, at least you know you're not built for the streets, and a lot of people don't admit that, and that's great that you are aware. And Anesu, you want to jump in?
I mean, my question would be, if you're not made for the streets, then how are you supposed to find your person? Like, where are the other people that are not made for the streets supposed to find?
On the balcony?
At home.
On the pavement?
On the pavement?
Not in the hospital.
They're not in the streets. Cindy, you have agreed with Dylan. I could tell you are almost about to stand up and applaud. What do you have to say? What are the do's and don'ts?
To the club. Simple, guys. I don't know why you would do that.
Okay, so don't bring you out to the club. So that actually jumps into the next point. I like how everyone is more or less on the same page. Then, is there any loyalty in the streets per se at any point in time? Anesu, you want to tackle that one first?
Honestly, I think that people should be more open. Like, you should be able to speak about it. Like, if you're in the streets, then just be open with the number of partners you have. So tell them, like, if you're fucking around with other people, don't make it a secret then. Like, we're in the streets anyway, so just be open with it. That's what I think.
Cindy?
No, I actually agree with her. I just think it's not as easy to be that open. And that's the problem with the streets, is that, like, because you might want to just be doing what you're doing with that person, but once there's like 3 or 4 parties involved, are you willing to stay in that? So do you actually want to know how many other people this person is with, or just do what you're doing, Moody too, and like keep it moving? I don't know.
I would want to know.
Like, you want to know the exact number of partners. You want to be like,
I want to know. Give me names so that I can. I don't want people approaching me in the club on some, I'm fucking your nigga. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I want to know.
That's embarrassing.
That's very embarrassing, especially for girls. I don't know.
All right, Dylan, we'll go more into that. But Dylan, what do you want to say?
I think I do agree 100% about there has to be some sort of communication. I think we're old enough and we're at the age where you should be able to articulate what you want and where you are. And if you are unable to do that, don't mess with other people. Don't waste other people's time. Be honest with the girl and say, okay, yo, like, you're not the only one, or I'm seeing other people. Or if you guys are going to have that conversation and be like, we're slightly exclusive, then actually talk about, okay, so I'm only seeing you. And from that point on, be loyal to whatever you've just said. Don't say something and then act different, because then you're just wasting each other's time. So yeah, I think there should be to some degree, there should be some loyalty involved, but that's only prompted after communication. Don't assume, Kuti, because you're with me, you're with me.
Okay.
Wait for us to have that conversation. Then we move on like that.
Period.
All right, we're gonna put a pin on the don't say something and act something else, because I'm actually gonna come back to that after Kano has the input. Kano, do you have anything to add?
My question is, I want to ask you, have you ever been in a club or somewhere and a guy has approached you like, dude, mang, I'm also hooking up with her. Like, how did you feel?
A guy has approached, is that for the floor or that is for me?
For you, Bruno.
Like, as a guy approached me.
Yeah, and been like, I'm also hooking up with so and so.
I mean, yeah, no, guys don't come up and tell you, be like, yeah, I'm also hooking up with her. Nah, that's your business, man. You don't know that.
I think that's the difference, because girls do that.
Girls
want to be in your face. Like, you're not the only one riding that. Like, you're not the only one doing that. So it gets really crazy on the girl side of the perspective of things.
Cindy, confirm or deny? Have you had experience with people?
Personally, yeah, guys. I don't know where people get the strong to do that. It's not me. I'm sorry. I don't have the strong for that.
So no girls have approached you?
If it's someone that I'm like in the streets with, and she said, oh, I'm also seeing... Okay, first of all, people won't know that I'm seeing this person. So it's like...
Period.
So it's like, no one's going to come to me and be like, oh, you're man, because that's not my man. So I also can't be mad.
Yes.
All right. Okay. I think also we need to, maybe just for the sake of the conversation, define the streets.
Define the streets. Yeah.
Let's not like Cindy was saying earlier, the pavement, the balcony. Let's actually just define the streets, the actual streets. What is the streets?
I would say there's no restrictions in the streets. You can actually do what you want because you're not really committed to anyone. But in a way where you also have to be respectful to the people that you're in the streets with. Like, I think the core thing is that maintaining respect, but then there's no loyalty to anyone really besides yourself, I think, if you're in the streets. So you're moving how you want to move unapologetically. Like, you're not going to be, giving reasons to anyone or whatever it is. It's just you're doing your thing.
All right. I just want to roll back a little bit to what Dylan said. Dylan had said, don't say something and then act different. So my question to that is, I remember in past conversations with Cindy, where we say, if you agree with someone at the beginning that what we're doing right now is casual. And the do's and don'ts that we mentioned earlier also come into this is, let's say you agree on that you're casual, you're all on the same page, and for example, the guy starts doing dating things, then does that throw out the window what you guys agreed upon, or does that word still stand?
So, for example, to add flesh to that, let's say you're casual, right? Hooking up casually, no, still whatever. And then one night he's like, come over, I'm gonna cook dinner for you. And it's a bit intimate vibes, right?
Wait, dinner is
intimate? Does that blur the line? Does that blur the line?
Yes.
Wait,
Dinner is intimate.
question.
It
Hey,
definitely
Jada,
does.
I have a big question here.
I also
So
have
are we
a
saying
couple
you
questions.
can't be? Are we saying you can't be in the streets and treat someone right? Is that what we're saying?
No. No, that's not what we're saying. But I'm saying, obviously, if it's casual, fine, what's casual? Hooking up, going home, or is it hooking up, chilling, talking, bonding?
Casual is in you just hooking up and that's it. Like you don't know too much about what's going on in the other
person's life. Mm-hmm. I feel like when you like start like getting to know this person, you're chatting, you're bonding over food, that's a bit intimate, guys. I feel like the lines get so blurred because what's not off casual now becoming like a thing, like a situationship. And I feel like I don't know.
So if you guys are saying, so dinner is an intimate thing, just to confirm that.
Yes.
Home cooked dinner is definitely intimate.
So lunch, alpha.
This nigga.
I think like go to McDonald's or something. Don't do a whole like cooked meal because that's putting effort.
I think that's too much effort too. I think as soon as you start feeding someone, it crosses a boundary. Maybe that's just
So basically, a don't in the streets is do not feed this person. Food, rather. Don't feed them.
Maybe I do not have good experience with this.
All right, but okay. My question is, let me give you an example. Not an example, but like a scenario. You meet someone, and since you guys are just casual, you don't want to end up doing what you usually do if you're trying to pursue someone, like take it out and all that, because that costs money. But you want to apply the skills that you learned as a kid, and you're like, cooking is probably cheaper, because I don't want to spend money since it's a casual thing. So then you make dinner. So as soon as that happens, does that throw away the whole agreement of the streets, of whatever you said in the beginning that were just casual?
Speaking from a personal point of view, I definitely would view that as you stepping over boundaries now. Like we're really entering that stage of, okay, like this is no longer just a hookup. This is getting serious.
Exactly.
So a don't for the streets is no home cooked meals. That's too intimate.
Let's go to McDonald's.
Let's go to McDonald's, get that Big Mac. The other one. Forehead kisses.
No.
Don't do it.
No. Everyone at the same time.
No.
No cuddling either after
round. Whoa.
Nah.
Kano, you said no cuddling after the deed.
I just don't understand why you guys are trying to make something so like just having sex and then make it emotional. Why are we cuddling after sex? Like if you're doing that, then you shouldn't be like later on confused when people are getting mixed vibes. Because to me, cuddling is very it's very relationshipy.
All right, Dylan, you see, jump in on this one. Let's hear this.
My counter argument, though, I 100% understand what you're saying. Like I hear you fully, but from a guy's perspective, let me tell you the truth. Guys can separate the physical from the emotion. Like the emotional. We can literally flip the switch and say, okay, no, I'm cuddling you, but I don't feel you like that. I know it might be different for girls, but literally to him in that moment, he's not thinking, oh, how many kids are we going to have? He's just thinking, okay, let me just cuddle. That's literally how it works. That's how it works.
I must agree with Dylan on this one. That is actually the truth. If you're not thinking what our kids are going to look like, or I wonder how our TikTok videos will look like. Now, none of that is coming. So
nothing.
So if you guys are saying cuddling is forehead kisses is a dead no.
No.
So this is a don't. And now you're saying cuddling is a don't. So you mean to tell me you're done, you clap, your cheeks are being clapped, and you're like, don't touch me.
I mean, what is he still doing there? I'm just with the casual vibe of literally just
go home.
Go home.
Why are you still
Cindy,
I'm so happy you said that.
we were actually hoping that someone would bring that up.
You guys have just made our day.
Sleepovers. So let's paint a scenario, and then we want to understand. Let's say I meet someone, right? And then they come over and we do what we do. And are you saying after all is done, you should leave? So sleepovers are no.
Yes, because one day that you stay over is going to become 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks is going to become a month. And then it'll get serious. Then now you're talking about, we're just being
Okay. First of all,
wait.
morning rounds. Wait.
Morning round slap, guys.
Morning round slap. That's
Morning round slap.
Then come in the morning.
It's not the same.
No, because now person is hypothetically, if the person came to your house, obviously if you went to the other person's house, then it's you leave. But if they're at your house, now you have to look after them. Now, like what's the plan? Now you're talking to this person. I don't understand. If you wanted something casual, that doesn't sound casual to me.
No,
okay, Dylan.
Wait.
Go ahead, Dylan. Go ahead.
I just have a question though. So, can we not have fun, like actual, just like enjoying, like whatever we're doing in the streets? Because I feel like otherwise it just becomes okay, we do our thing, then you dip. Like, where's the fun in that? Like.
Okay, but are you doing that with one girl, or are you doing it with the multiple girls that you're with?
Okay. Just to clarify, I just have a question. First of all, like Cindy said, actually, Cindy, go ahead on this one because you seem like we were all on the same page on the morning rounds, and then I'll speak after you.
Yeah, and I feel like, okay, look, let's say it's a hookup, like middle of the night hookup, right? And the rounds are done, then you're done. I am not packing my bags at 2 a.m. to go cabins. I'm gonna dance because I want to get those morning rounds. Because those morning rounds slap. After those morning rounds, then you can't stay for like an hour or two because don't you have plans? Don't you have places to be, places to go? Then you leave. Like then you're done, you leave.
I must say I agree with Cindy. Yeah. Go ahead, Cindy. I definitely agree with Cindy. Like they slept in the morning. You can't go in the morning, it's not the same. But now I'm then saying don't then overstay. Like if let's say you wake up around 9, we do what we do, and then 11 hits and you're still in my place. What the hell are you still doing here? Like if all this hadn't happened, what was your day going to look like? What were you going to do? But what's the verdict on sleepovers, Dylan? Is that a do or a don't in the streets?
It's a do, but then don't. Yeah, I agree with exactly what you're saying about don't overstay and don't overcommit to that whole sleepover. Like there should be a difference between someone you're messing around with and someone you're dating. Because like I think it kind of falls back to what the girls have been saying, Kuti. There is a level of too much effort that then blurs the lines. And I think certain time frames will then lead to that. Like you're saying, if she stays by 11, 12, Vinini, I'm not gonna lie, I'm starting to think about lunch. And my mom raised me correct. I'm not gonna eat without you eating. So I'm gonna cook for you. Now, by doing that, that's where we blur the line. So I think by 10, if you're not back cabins, I'm leaving my joint and then I'll see you come out 4 go.
All right.
Okay, so Dylan, where do we draw the line at like sleepovers and whatnot? Like, is it like a once in a week type of thing, or like what?
I think that's subjective to how well you two can communicate and what you're both looking for. Because I think some guys, I know some gents, and I'm talking from experience. I know some gents who can only do once a week because they then feel like anything otherwise would then create, potential for feelings. And I know other gents who can literally do every day, seeing the same person every day, keep it 100. But that's just because they're able to communicate and say like, yo, like this is still just us kicking it like this and nothing serious is happening. So I think it's all about communication, because once you cease to communicate, that's when people make assumptions. And then that's when all the drama happens.
All right, that's fair. But the reality of the streets is people aren't communicating like that. So
Can I ask Dylan a question? Because you seem to really be like in the streets. I didn't mean it like that.
Damn. Man was just voicing his opinions and now he's in the streets.
I didn't realize that.
Assumption.
I'm just saying, like you're really coming and you're fighting everything. So clearly you've been in the streets, you enjoyed it, like you dabble there. So my thing is, as someone who does not frequently play in the streets, what happens when you and this person, especially when like, not everyone around you knows what's happening. What happens when you guys run into each other at public places, like a club or like what happens there?
Hi, how are you?
Do you each other?
That's when being cool comes into play. You act like you know each other, but you don't act like you know each other like that. So my thing is, we'll end up becoming friends. So when I see you in public, everyone will just think you're the homie. And it's chilled like that. It's just cool like that. Because if you try avoiding each other, I think we're way too old to be trying to hide each other. Sorry
to cut you. So, I have a question for the floor, which is, everyone is saying they're about the do's and don'ts of the streets, obviously. But if you then have a discussion and admit it's casual, then why are the line being blurred? Like, why is it not? Isn't the whole point of the discussion in the beginning so that you're on the same page from the get-go? And if you feel like something is changing, should you not then initiate another conversation to say, I'm feeling you're doing this and it's kind of confusing. So are we still in agreement that this is just a casual thing? Or
that's the problem with boys. I don't think guys really want to have like a lot of discussions like this, because when girls typically come up and say their viewpoints on certain things, guys literally run for the hills. Like no one wants to ever speak about this. I'm speaking personally from experience from myself, from Zim guys. Like they never want to speak on these things. So it makes it really difficult to just be open like that, because not everyone is open to communication.
Dylan, got something to add to that?
I was going to agree with that 100% and actually say that I think it takes a certain level of maturity and maybe also self-awareness to be able, as a guy, to create an environment where both of you feel like you can actually have these conversations. And I think sometimes the issue may also come in maybe like your inability to articulate yourself, perhaps due to your past experiences, whether it be dating, whatever, which has led you to being in the streets. Or it can go back to that thing that I was saying about guys where we can switch off emotions and physical attraction. So he might actually not even notice that, oh, like I'm doing too much, because to him, he's just, I'm doing something. So I think I 100% agree with you that most of the time it is from the guys. The blurred lines come because of the guys. One, due to our actions, and two, due to us not being able to facilitate conversations. So 100%, like I really agree with that. But I think that's a thing as guys that we have to work on, and especially like, I think the streets is the perfect place to learn how to articulate yourself, because if you can't talk in the streets, when you're actually in a relationship, you're going to be the most useless communicator ever.
Okay, fair enough. So my question is now, if you guys are talking about there's a whole trend that it should strictly be casual, and that's usually what you say. But then is strictly casual really, because a lot of the times not everyone is trying to start again with each person. Like I can speak for a lot of guys, a lot of my peers, they usually say stuff like they want something sustainable. But is it really sustainable if it's seriously after everything, as soon as you're done, you're packing your bags and you're leaving? Because that's only going to last about a week, 2 weeks before it's over. Or am I wrong, Cindy? You're like,
I'm trying to understand. Are you in the streets to then get into a relationship, or are you just in the streets to be in the streets?
No. In the streets, let's say you're in the streets, right? You're in the streets. But now, obviously, being in the streets, at some point, you're going to have to just not necessarily be in a relationship, but you're enjoying the current situation. You just want to continue with that. But if you're saying some boundaries can't be crossed, there will come a time where those boundaries might be crossed. That's what I was asking as to, so is the discussion and actions that doesn't matter? It's fully on actions? Because if it's fully on actions, then what's the whole point of the discussion?
Okay, well, first, I feel like we should point out, this is a big problem with guys, that they're always like, streets. Guys want a relationship without the term relationship. I think that's when this is the problem with girls, because like for us, our boundaries, that should be like, we're not just being casual anymore, we're actually doing something serious. But that's why you guys can do X, Y's, and Z's and do everything, and it's okay, because in your head, you're still doing something casual when it's not. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I don't trust
No,
niggas.
no, definitely. Oh, shit.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. That made sense. Now she was
It's like, in the end, in conclusion, I don't trust men.
I hate y'all.
You guys don't know what you want, and I don't understand it because you can describe what you want, but when you give a word to it, it's not connecting. So I think that's the problem with the streets. That's the thing I don't understand, because it's like you guys just want to be casual to hook up with people for so long and X, Y, and Z. And then it kind of gets lost in the end.
I mean, is it even that most of you want to be in the streets, or you're just being in the streets because that's what's like happening right now? That's what's appealing right now.
Yeah.
I like this question because there's a simple answer to it. There's two types of niggas. Niggas who are born for the streets and niggas who are in the streets by circumstance.
Yes.
Most of us are there
Circumstance.
because of circumstance. Something is not allowing us to get into a relationship, whether it be you, whether it be the lack of people, whether it be your past, whatever. But going back on to what do niggas want? We want two things: security and stability. That's all niggas actually want in anything. Even in the
You're looking in
streets,
the wrong place.
Whoa.
niggas don't want to get hurt. You don't want to
Why
get
are you looking for
don't want to get
security?
hurt.
Why are you looking for security in the streets? I'm sorry, Dylan. I'm not with you on that one.
Security
Why are
in
you
the
looking?
streets.
It's the streets.
Stay on the pavement.
The balcony.
The balcony.
Dylan is lost, guys.
Okay, Dylan, I was with you the entire time till you said security.
You're part of the problem, Dylan. You're part of the
You know what I
problem.
think? You know what I think?
Dylan's like, what did I do?
It's a possession thing. Gents want to possess their hands without actually having titles. Yeah, that's it. Because now look, you're in the streets and you know you're in the streets, but you think is you want to have this thing of this is my person and I can do what I want with this person, but not actually making it exclusive. So now you're hiding behind security, stability. Bro, if you want security, get into a relationship. You know, don't look for it in the streets. That's
Those things are tough.
I actually like what you said, Dylan, because now it gives me perspective. Because for a lot of discussions that I have with my guy friends and it always seems as though the girls are the ones who are the problem in the streets. Like they're the ones who are catching feelings. They're the ones who are lying. And yes, sometimes they are the ones who are doing it. But now when you then said all niggas want is security, I didn't know about that. So I'm like, okay, that changes the whole ball game. Because now we're like, say, if you're looking for security, then you should not be in the streets.
No, I completely disagree with you. I do. Like, I feel like women actually enjoy casual so much more than men. And that's why I was asking what happens when you see the person at the club. Because like, fine, if you guys are being cool and friendly, but what happens from what I've seen is as soon as the girl is getting approached by multiple other guys in that same night, that's when men start acting out. Mm-hmm. That's why I was asking, when you're doing your casual thing, like who knows about it? Because if it's a low-key thing, how do you react when you're out at the club and your sneaky link, whatever, is with other men and she's entertaining them? I don't know. I think that's
very territorial about that, yeah.
I think you can't react. I think it's not in your place to react. Because if they come and say, why do you have men coming up to you? I'll be like, but you're not my man though. If you want me to not have men coming up, then wife me.
Okay, but you shouldn't, but I feel like most guys do. That's true.
But that's where but I think that's where maturity comes into play.
Facts.
Genuinely.
So a lot of guys are not mature.
These conclusions are just killing me.
That's the problem. A lot of guys are not mature.
Personally, I wouldn't care. Personally, if I'm talking personally, if we're in the streets and we're involved in the streets, what you do outside, that's none of my business. And what I do outside, that's none of my business. That's none of your business either. So if you're then gonna feel some type of way in the club, then we should probably end it. And that's also another problem with the streets. It's because people, in as much as I kind of agree to a degree where you say, I don't necessarily fully agree, but I'm not a girl, so I can't agree nor disagree. But from what I've seen in the past, the experience about girls saying they want something casual. It's not necessarily they want something casual. They just don't want to start what they have with you with someone else. What I've seen is like the whole starting again to say hi. Okay, that whole discussion. That's a stressful ass discussion because half the time it comes from we need to talk. And I don't care how much a guy's in the streets, married, divorced, future. That text we need to talk gets any guy worried. Not even worried. They're just like, damn it.
Here we go again.
You're just like, damn. And I've come to realize, from what I've seen from experience, that a lot of people don't want to start that whole the beginning of the street process again. So they want to just continue. However, in that continuing, then some feelings come. And that's the reality of the streets. Eventually, someone is catching feelings. And when that happens, it's either going to have to cut it loose.
Charge it to the game.
Or just if you want to go to the next level, then go to the next level. Cindy, charge it to the game. You want to explain that term? It's an inside joke. It is an inside joke, so explain it.
I feel like if you're in the street and you so happen to catch feelings somewhere on the lines, the casual becomes a little formal, a little semi-casual, whatever it is. That's your loss because you can't actually catch feelings. You can't get mad at that person, type of thing. Like, take your L and just keep it moving, I think.
So who's okay? Not to say who's to blame, but who is to blame? Let's say we have this discussion that we're in the streets, and then something that you consider intimate happens. Am I to blame for doing it? Just an example, or the person I'm with, is she to blame for not telling me to stay in my lane or boundaries?
I think it depends. Like if you haven't opened that line of communication where I feel comfortable enough to ask you about why you're acting that way, and I can tell you you crossed the boundary, then it's your fault. But then obviously if you have opened that line of communication and I can speak to you and I didn't come to you and communicate, then it's also my fault. So it honestly just depends.
Charge it to the game. Dylan is like, okay, all right. So do's and don'ts. So we've discussed the do's and don'ts. We've described the discussion. And now let's say the final topic of this is the ending. If someone catches feelings and then you decide to end it, why is it that a lot of bashing then comes into play about how this dude screwed me over, how this girl screwed me over?
Dreams were sold.
If you had agreed that you're casual, then obviously something didn't end well. Then why the bashing? If anyone can explain how the other person might be feeling, Dylan?
I think dreams. Okay, from my experience though, and I'll be very transparent. Every time that's happened, not just from my when I've done it or I've received that, but even from my friends' experiences, dreams have been sold. So I think it is. And I think most times it does come from a place of, you actually messed me up. I don't think people just react for the sake of reacting. I think at some point words would have been said or things would have been done that make someone feel like, yo, but you actually messed me up here. I would have at least expected you to talk about, where you're coming from. Because sometimes you can also end it abruptly and the other person's what? I thought we were chilled. And then you then blame the person for catching feelings when they don't see it. So I think it's that lack of communication. And again, maybe your actions not being backed up by your words sometimes. So I do understand where the bashing does come from most of the times. But then sometimes, it's a little,
Kano?
Sometimes my one.
I think that sometimes when you're doing these casual, sneaky links with people, you kind of have goggles on, because you're enjoying what you're doing, you're enjoying the other person, you have goggles on, and and then when things finish and when they end, and you finally you become clear-headed, you realize what a terrible person that was, what a complete waste of time that person was, how terrible those rounds were, and you notice that once the goggles are off. So honestly, I feel last people, it's coming from a place of reason. No one bashes someone for no reason whatsoever. There's always a reason. And sometimes you would just, what do you call those things, the horses with it? I always forget. When they're racing, you have your blinders on. I think that's what it's called. So yeah.
She said the rounds were trash. But if the rounds were trash, why are you still there?
I disagree. I think honestly, it just comes down to maturity. Dylan's favorite topic tonight. I think it comes down to maturity. I just think that when things end, you could have been really hurt. And I feel like when people say certain things and start, bashing other people, it's coming from a place of hurt, especially if you were not prepared for things to end that way.
Cindy?
That's what I think.
I I'm not sure why I actually agree with, but I think I agree with photography to like some extent. But I feel like it's when it ends, you're kind of projecting how you feel onto that person, where you shouldn't do that, because you got into it knowing what it was, and obviously, yes, naturally it got blurred in the process. But when it ends, hoping it ends, in a cordial manner, they're nice about it. You can't actually project even if you are hurt, you're allowed to be hurt, fair and fine. But you can't project that hurt on that person because you knew what it was, type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I can't even go around bashing you, like, yeah, what? No, dude, you kind of knew what it was. I'm sorry you're hurt, but you can't make it like my hurt as well.
Yeah, be hurt in silence.
I agree with Cindy.
But then,
I'll agree with Cindy because it's I think that's why the streets. Eventually, someone's going to catch feelings. Eventually, someone's not going to be upset. So why are we being upset in the end if things were horrible? You knew what it was, and if the lines got blurred, then that's unfortunate. But that's the name of the game. Charge it to the game.
I want to hear Dylan.
I feel like that's a bit. Sorry, I think there I have to disagree with you.
Go ahead.
Because then I think sometimes you then promote certain toxic traits in people and then justify it with it's the streets. I think the streets doesn't justify you being a shit person.
It doesn't.
No, I agree.
It doesn't. If anything, I think when you're in the streets, there should be some kind of leeway for people to actually call you out on your shit. Because like I said, I think the streets is the perfect place not to prepare yourself for a relationship. No, I'm not saying that. Don't do that. But I think just also build yourself up better as a person, because you don't have the pressures of being in a relationship, but you're still interacting with someone else. And I think I like to believe that anyone that I've been with could call me out on things that I did wrong, so that at least the next time I know, okay, don't do ABC, don't do, this, especially by my forehead, kiss this apple. But anyway.
All right. I agree with you on the being a shit person, that's for sure. But obviously, I think also the reason why we might have missed each other is because we spoke about we say do's and don'ts of the streets, but we didn't really talk about the do's. And part of the do's is have that communication line that Anesu spoke about earlier, about opening a communication line. The whole point of the streets is that you're both on the same page. You're not ready to commit. You're not ready. Circumstance or born to be in the streets. That communication is a must-have. So if you're not talking to the person and then obviously things end badly, then that's what I'm saying when I'm saying that those are the streets. If you didn't catch it. But the communication of saying, hey, we're just doing casual, this, that, that's the do. And also when things change, if you feel like things are changing, that's also a do in the streets. So since obviously a lot of people might actually have been missing the direction of the conversations, let's discuss the do's and musts of the streets.
Do respect your person, whether like they're your person, just respect the other person. I think that's like the most important thing, because people think being in the streets means like what Dylan's saying, that you're toxic, whatever it is. I think you can be in the street but still be respectful, still be a gentleman, still be a woman, whatever it is, right? But also knowing the boundaries, one, and also communicating. In fact, the biggest thing is just communicating. And yeah, I think when things end bad, it shows how well you respect them or how well you communicate the things with that person. So yeah.
Kano? Any do's and musts of the streets? If you have none, that's
as I said, I have literally no experience, and the point of the fact is I wouldn't recommend anyone to be on the streets. I don't understand why we just want to be hooking up with people casually. That sounds absolutely terrible to me. No things involved. And then when people get gonorrhea and these different issues.
Oh, she's hurt.
This is like, do not recommend. Minus 10 out of 10.
I feel like Kano should have been part of part 1, not part 2. She's hurt.
Kano was for the dating and relationships.
Kano was for the dating and relationships. So not
also me. I'm a lover boy guy.
Not joking.
Sorry, I just don't understand it. But not everything's for everyone.
I actually have a question. Like, if you are for the streets, if you're in the streets, does that mean you have to be like secret about everything? Like, you can't tell anyone else about like you guys having a relationship with like, your respective other?
You have to talk to that person and ask them if they're okay with it.
Or if it happens, then you should be like, or you should just be like, what we're doing is strictly between you and I.
Mm-hmm. Because they could, I don't know. That's tricky.
That's a tricky one still.
That's tricky. Dylan.
Because I think, I feel like if you're going to be in the streets, this is literally the first question that you should ask each other. Like, are you okay with me telling other people, with other people knowing? Because, things always have a way of coming out to light, So how are you going to deal with it when it comes out to light that we're actually hooking up? Like, most guys lose their shit, I don't know.
Dylan?
True.
Must-dos of the streets?
My first thing is, it comes back to exactly what the girls are saying. Make sure that you both know, Kuti, to what extent can people know and who can know? Because I think a lot of things also then get blurred when other people get involved, because maybe one party will get pressure from their friends, or people will just end up saying a lot that will mess you two up. Uh-huh. So I think that's the first one. And then second one is just communicate. Just communicate. Like, we are literally the generation that grew up on phones. So how can you not communicate? Like, literally, you don't have to be able to say with your mouth, even just drop me a text. Our 100% would rather get a text, some paragraph, than nothing. Like, speak to me. Speak. I have ears for a reason.
All right.
100%.
So, obviously, we ran out of time, but I also have just one question now, moving on, and then before we round up. Cindy, when you were talking about the must-haves, you had said that be respectful and in everything that you do. So my question is now, in the streets, or from my experience, from my run in the streets, I've also come to realize that if you're being a gentleman, that is usually mistaken for being. Because I'll give an example. Personally, it's very weird for me to see you walk through a door and open it by yourself. I'm just like, or me walk in front of you, or you sit and not me pulling out a chair, or walk you to your car after you're done. That's not me trying to finesse you or anything, or blur the lines. It's just how I was raised in terms of that being chivalrous. So it's chivalrous. Do people mistake being a gentleman or being a nice person as you blurring the lines of what you discussed? And if so, is the guy to blame? And is that now, are we saying that chivalry should be dead in the streets?
Answer is no.
I don't think so. I agree with Cindy. No. It's on the girl if they take it as, you wanting to be in a relationship. But as a guy, it's not on you. I agree with Cindy.
All right, guys. That brings us to the end of part 2 of the streets. I appreciate you guys coming on. And like we do after each episode of this type of discussions of the chat room, we like to have people to have closing remarks and not the episode the person. And today we will start with Dylan. Any closing remarks?
Guys, leave your hearts at home. And don't search for stability and security. Apparently it's selling dreams. Those are my favorites. And no forehead kisses. Easy on the forehead kisses.
Easy on the forehead kisses. Noted. Anesu.
Well, thank you guys for having us. And I am very big on communicate. Like, that's just...
Period.
Everyone should be able to communicate at this point. We're mature enough to be able to talk about everything and anything,
Kano?
Thank you for having us. And if it wasn't clear, don't go to the streets.
Kano does not recommend the streets at all.
I don't recommend them at all. 100% zero. No.
Cindy?
Oh, sorry, I think everyone actually covered everything. Really communicate, be respectful, don't bring it out to the club, and yeah.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us. My closing remarks would be, again, like we didn't leave you out at home, be respectful, and consent is a thing, Jets, you're in the streets, but please make sure you get the consent, make sure the girl agrees, and let's be respectful. Thank you for joining us, guys, and cheers.